Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about something that I think is a total game changer. We're going to look at those challenges in life, the ones that keep showing up, and we're going to reframe them, not as something to be frustrated about, but as crucial steps in a bigger, grander design for your life.
I mean, you know that feeling, right? That sense of, not this again. You find yourself staring down the exact same problem, the same emotional hurdle you were so sure you'd already dealt with. It can really feel like you're just running in place.
Maybe for you, it's a pattern in your relationships. Or maybe it's that nagging voice of self-doubt that always seems to find a way back in. It could even be a financial problem that just keeps popping up no matter what you do. It feels like you're trapped, like you're not making any real progress. But what if that's not what's happening at all?
What if every single time you face that old challenge, you're actually meeting it from a new, slightly higher, more evolved place? That one tiny shift in how you see it changes everything. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today.
Now, this whole idea comes from the incredible vision of a pretty unique thinker, a guy named Walter Russell. He had a way of seeing the universe that was, well, completely different from most.
So Russell looked out at the cosmos, and he didn't see randomness or chaos. Not at all. He saw a universe guided by what he called a universal mind, like an intelligent, divine blueprint for everything. For him, everything, from the tiniest atom to the biggest galaxy, was basically thought made physical, unfolding in these beautiful, rhythmic, and perfectly ordered patterns.
And right at the heart of this entire vision is this concept of dynamic balance. The big idea is that the whole universe works through this constant, rhythmic dance between opposing forces, all of them always trying to find a state of balance.
You can kind of think of it like a cosmic breath. You have an inhale and you have an exhale, a compression and then an expansion. For every single action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. For light, there's dark. This constant back and forth, this push and pull. Russell said that's not chaos, that is the engine of all creation.
And this is where that huge cosmic law gets super personal. That feeling of struggle, of being challenged, even of suffering, that's not a mistake. It's not you getting lost or failing. It's a necessary inward pull, a moment of compression that is absolutely vital for the next phase of your expansion, of your growth.
This brings us to probably the most powerful metaphor in this whole framework, and it's all about how life really truly evolves, the universal spiral.
Just let that sink in for a second. Nothing in the universe really moves in a straight line. Not planets, not galaxies, and for sure, not our lives, our growth, or our evolution. It all happens in cycles. It all spirals.
And this just perfectly illustrates the mental shift we're talking about. We're so often taught to see life as this straight, linear path, where any step backward feels like a total failure. But the spiral reality, it shows us that revisiting old themes is actually how we grow. Those so-called setbacks are really just the necessary inward curve of the spiral, the part that's getting us ready to climb to the next level.
So here's the crucial takeaway. When you feel stuck, you are not stagnating. You're actually in a super important phase of integration. It's like the universe's way of making sure you don't just collect experiences, but that you actually absorb the wisdom from them before you expand outward again.
Okay, so this all sounds great, but how do we actually put it into practice? Let's walk through a really simple, practical exercise you can do to map out your very own spiral.
All right, here's how you can actually see this playing out in your life. First, just pick a reoccurring theme, one of those challenges that keeps coming back. Let's say, for example, it's feeling like an imposter at work. Okay, step 2. Map it. Think of 3 different times you felt this. Maybe the first time was on your very first day at a new job. Then maybe a year later, giving a huge presentation. And then maybe just recently, when you got a promotion. Now step 3, notice the difference. The first time, maybe you were just terrified and stayed silent. The second time, you were still super nervous, but you did it anyway. And this most recent time, you felt that doubt, but you had the tools to coach yourself through it. And finally, reflect. You see? The theme is the same, but your ability to handle it has clearly grown. You're on a higher loop of that spiral.
And once you really get this, it all leads to this ultimate incredible shift in perspective. You are ascending. You're not just repeating.
So that feeling,
That deep in your gut feeling of being stuck, it's an illusion. It really is. It's just a trick our minds play on us when we think life is supposed to be a straight line. From the spiral perspective, you realize you're never, ever actually standing still.
Instead, what's really happening is you are ascending. Each time you revisit a challenge, it's just another turn on your spiral. You're not repeating a grade in school. You're mastering the subject at a higher and higher level.
It means you get to look at familiar landscapes, but always from a new height. The view has changed. Why? Because you've changed. You are approaching that same old mountain, but this time with more experience, more wisdom, and a much greater ability to climb it than ever before.
So, I'll leave you with this to think about. What challenge in your life right now is actually a familiar landscape? And more importantly, can you take a second to recognize the new height you're seeing it from? Because that new perspective, that's where you'll see just how far you've already climbed.